Imagine logging into Star Citizen and not worrying about crashing servers, broken elevators, or game-breaking bugs. No, it's not a dream, it just might be 2025. But here's the twist, the biggest change this year isn't about flashy new ships or groundbreaking features. It's about making the game actually work the way that we've always hoped. Before we dive in, I want to quickly apologize for the lack of videos over the last couple of weeks. I had to step away from home and work due to some unexpected commitments, including 24-hour operations that kept me offline longer than I had planned. But I'm back, and today we're going to look at why 2025 might be the year Star Citizen finally shifts its focus. Not toward adding tons of new features, but making the game more playable, stable, and consistent. And honestly, I'm all for it. Over the past few weeks, CIG has been showing solid progress that they're learning from past mistakes. The focus on 4.0.2 is a great example. Instead of packing it with new content, they're zeroing in on bug fixes, quality of life improvements, and something I've been waiting to see for a long time: server maintenance windows. This might seem small, but taking servers down proactively to address performance issues is an amazing approach. It's exactly what the game needs to tackle the persistent server problems that we've all been dealing with. Just last weekend, I experienced a ton of issues trying to get into servers, constant disconnects, failed login attempts, and elevators that refused to work. We've all been there, standing in front of a broken elevator, mashing the buttons like it owes us money. But with CIG finally addressing these kinds of core issues head on, there's real hope that 2025 will be the year that the game feels stable for the first time. So what does that mean for Star Citizen in 2025? Let's talk about the features that we might still see, how CIG's focus on playability will shape this year, and why this shift might be the best thing to happen to the game in a long time. CIG's recent actions send a clear message. 2025 isn't about stacking feature after feature. It's about fixing what's already there and making it actually enjoyable to play. For years, Star Citizen has been this paradox, an incredibly ambitious game with groundbreaking ideas that often get overshadowed by bugs, server crashes, and frustrating technical issues. But now with their heavy focus on playability and stability, we might be witnessing a potential shift. The proactive server maintenance is a huge part of this. Regular maintenance windows are a standard practice in many online games, and it's great to see CIG finally embracing this approach. It shows that they're not just reacting to problems after they already happen, but actively working to prevent them. This could significantly improve server uptime, reduce crashes, and help with issues like the login problems and elevator glitches that we've all suffered through. Another critical component of this shift is the continued development and improvement of static server meshing. I've said it many times before, but this technology is key to scaling Star Citizen's universe, allowing for more players to coexist in the same space without performance degradation. In 2025, we can expect to see improvements aimed at increasing player counts per server, enhancing performance, and delivering a more stable and responsive gameplay experience, at least according to what they've been saying. As CIG fine-tunes static server meshing, the game will not only feel more robust, but also more alive, with the potential for larger battles, more dynamic events, and seamless transition between different areas of the universe. 4.0.2 seems like the start of something different, a patch more focused on squashing hundreds of bugs rather than showing off shiny new content. And honestly, it's refreshing. We've had years where new ships and gameplay loops were the highlights, but what's the point of new features if the core game doesn't feel solid? That doesn't mean there won't be new content in 2025, though. In fact, feature additions are still on the table, but they'll likely be tied directly to gameplay content rather than existing in isolation. Think of things like hacking mechanics, which could easily find their way into missions and security gameplay without overhauling the entire system. Hacking has been teased for a while, and with CIG's current focus, it feels like a natural fit to be added alongside new mission content. This approach of pairing features with content is smart. It means when a new mechanic drops, it's already integrated into the game world in meaningful ways, rather than feeling tacked on. So while we might not get massive new gameplay loops like crafting or salvaging 2.0 this year, we'll likely see more refined content that makes better use of the systems already in place. In many ways, 2025 could be the year that Star Citizen feels more like an actual game rather than an experimental tech demo. Not because of some flashy new feature, but because the core gameplay is stable the servers are reliable, and the experience is consistent. If you're enjoying this deep dive and want to stay updated on all things Star Citizen, consider hitting that subscribe button. It helps the channel grow, and you'll be the first to know when new content drops, keeping you in the loop with the latest updates, features, and discussions. While the spotlight is clearly on stability, that doesn't mean 2025 will be devoid of new gameplay. In fact, CIG has been laying the groundwork for several features that could realistically make their way into the game this year. As I mentioned, one of the most likely candidates is hacking mechanics. Again, this isn't just a throwaway feature. Hacking could tie into everything from security missions to data heists, giving players new ways to approach objectives. It could bring a fresh layer of strategy, especially in PvP scenarios where disabling enemy systems without brute force could change the meta entirely. If implemented well, it could be a game changer for both solo players and org operations. Another potential addition is engineering gameplay, specifically resource management. While it was initially expected earlier, delays have likely allowed CIG to refine the system. This feature will fundamentally alter how multi-crew ships operate, making roles like engineers vital for rerouting power, managing ship integrity, and even dealing with onboard emergencies. It's the kind of gameplay that adds depth without relying on constant content drops, because the mechanics themselves create dynamic, emergent situations. Dynamic missions and event-driven gameplay could also expand. We've seen glimpses of this with events like Xenothreat, but there's room for growth. Imagine missions that evolve based on player decisions or server-wide events that shift the balance of power in real time. This would make the universe feel more alive, with or without major new features being added. Now, I have a few ideas on their expansion of story-driven content, but that will be coming up in the next video later this week. It's something that I'm very passionate about and want them to get right, and it will likely be one of my more critical videos. Now, moving on, the introduction of quantum travel and boost updates would also be a game changer. These would significantly reduce travel times between locations, making gameplay flow more efficiently. It would enhance exploration, trade, and combat engagements, reducing downtime while maintaining the sense of scale within the universe. And in Star Citizen, there are plenty of time sinks that need to be reduced, so players can feel like they're accomplishing more during their gameplay. We might also see the first iteration of base building, though likely in a limited form. If it arrives, I'd expect to see small structures designed for outposts and basic player settlements. These would lay the groundwork for more complex systems in future updates, adding another layer of depth for players interested in establishing a persistent presence within the verse. Additionally, player traversal mechanics like sliding, prone movement, and ladder updates could make it into the game. These quality of life changes may seem minor, but they'd have a noticeable impact on FPS combat and exploration, making character movement feel more fluid and tactical. Weapon wear and radiation mechanics could also debut, adding survival elements that force players to consider equipment durability and environmental hazards. This would deepen gameplay, especially for long-term missions in hazardous environments. We're also likely to see the long-anticipated Valakar and its unique mission content. CIG has been hard at work putting the finishing touches on this, along with developing juvenile and adult versions, as well as other Copion variants. This promises to bring an entirely new set of challenges and experiences for players eager to dive into more dynamic encounters. Lastly, there's always the possibility of new ships and vehicles tied directly to gameplay mechanics. Honestly, we could see ships like the Apollo and the Legionnaire becoming more relevant with the implementation of hacking gameplay and medical mechanics, along with other ships designed for specific roles within the verse. These ships will likely be released alongside relevant content, ensuring that they have a purpose beyond just looking cool in your hangar. We may also see the beginning of dynamic weather systems, with early iterations possibly introducing elements like rain, localized storms, shifting environmental hazards, and more immersive planetary conditions. This could drastically affect ground-based gameplay, adding another layer of realism and challenge. All of this paints a picture of a game that's finally starting to focus on how we play, not just what we play with. And honestly, that's a shift I think the community has been waiting for. Now let's talk about Squadron 42, because there's growing speculation that we might finally get an official release date at CitizenCon this year. Considering how long Squadron 42 has been in development, that would be huge news. We've seen glimpses of its progress over the years, especially after the most recent CitizenCon, and CIG has hinted it's getting closer to the finish line. But will it actually release in 2026? That's where things get a little tricky. While I expect to see a full marketing push starting at CitizenCon in 2025, I think that we might actually see a release in early 2026. Now, this still gives CIG the breathing room to polish the game, finalize key mechanics, and ensure the single-player experience meets lofty expectations they've set. After all, the only date that they've actually set was for 2026, whether that be the beginning of the year or the end of the year. But here's the thing, as always, I'm cautiously optimistic. I want to believe that we'll get it sooner rather than later, but given Star Citizen's history with timelines, a little skepticism feels warranted. With that said, if CIG surprises us and drops it earlier, it could have a massive ripple effect on the persistent universe. Resources currently tied to Squadron 42 could shift back to Star Citizen, accelerating development and potentially fast-tracking features that we've been waiting on. Either way, whether it's early 2026 or late 2026, Squadron 42 will mark a major milestone, not just for CIG, but for the entire Star Citizen community. When you step back and take a look at the direction CIG is taking, it becomes clear that 2025 isn't just about fixing bugs or adding new features. It's about changing the way Star Citizen is developed. This shift towards stability, playability, and meaningful content integration could be the most important evolution the game has seen in years. For too long, Star Citizen has been a showcase of potential, rather than a fully realized game. The focus on flashy features, massive ships, and ambitious mechanics often left the core gameplay feeling inconsistent. But with CIG doubling down on foundational improvements, 2025 could mark the year where the game finally feels alive, interconnected, and, well, fun to play consistently. This isn't just about making the game stable. It's about creating an environment where every feature, every mission, and every mechanic feels like it belongs. Where players aren't just testing new ships in a vacuum, but engaging with content that feels dynamic and purposeful. If CIG sticks to this path, focusing on refining what works and thoughtfully integrating new content, Star Citizen won't just be an ambitious project. It will be an incredible game. And honestly, after all of these years, that's the change I've been hoping to see. So what do you think? Are you excited about CIG's new focus, or do you have your concerns about the direction of Star Citizen in 2025? Let me know in the comments. If you found this breakdown insightful and want to support the channel further, consider becoming a member. As a member, you'll gain exclusive access to our Discord community, where we dive deeper into Star Citizen discussions, share tips, and collaborate on gameplay strategies. You'll also get early access to content, behind-the-scenes updates, and even sneak peeks at upcoming videos. Your support helps keep this channel running and allows me to continue creating in-depth content like this. Plus, it's a great way to connect with other passionate Star Citizen fans and be a part of a growing community that shares your enthusiasm for the verse. Also, check out the next video, where we dive into why 2025's focus on stability could be the key to unlocking Star Citizen's true potential. Thank you for watching. Fly safe, and I'll see you in the verse. Have a go.